Thank you, everybody. I'm excited to be here. This is actually my first trip to Winnipeg, so I'm very happy to be able to be a part of this this session. And before I got here quite early, and I had a chance to walk around this this amazing facility. And the previous speaker, I can attest to what he said. This is a great place. It really makes me long for those days where I was back in school. It's to the people studying right here, you're very fortunate. This is quite an amazing facility. So my presentation today is about a topic that's quite near and dear to my heart, and that's digital transformation. And I want to share with you today our journey at Alberta Infrastructure that we've taken over the last 2 years to try to transform our ministry. Arrow keys. Gotcha. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of context. Some of you may recognize this this tool. A lot of people in this room may not. I know my kids certainly wouldn't be able to tell me what that is. This is a tool that we used 50 years ago to communicate with people. Today, it's a very different story. We use mobile phones, we use WhatsApp and Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and various other technologies, most of which I'm not even aware of. So things have gotten, things are very different in the communications industry. We're all connected. 50 years ago, this was a typical car. They were generally unsafe, unreliable, not very efficient. Fast forward to 50 years, and I'm not saying that everybody here has a Tesla. I wish I had one. But cars have progressed significantly in the last 50 years. They're very technologically sophisticated. They're safe. We have a lot of electric vehicles, and in the next 5 years, 10 years, we'll probably have a lot of autonomous vehicles on the road. So major shift in the transportation industry. 50 years ago, this is how most of us would listen to portable music, to music on the go, through a transistor radio. I mean, how many people know what a transistor radio is anymore? Today, it's a very different story. We have cloud services, streaming services, where we have access to millions and millions of songs at our fingertips through a mobile device. So again, major shift in the music industry. So, construction. 50 years ago, construction was pretty much done the same way it's being done today. So, we have lagged as an industry in terms of the adoption of technology, in terms of collaborative work practices, while manufacturing, their efficiency, their productivity has grown exponentially. Construction has pretty much stagnated. This has obvious consequences that I'm sure a lot of people here are very aware of. These are problems that are familiar to everyone in the industry. Projects are regularly delivered late, often over budget. There are a high number of RFIs, change orders. And when that project is delivered to an owner, a lot of the information that we receive is out of date. It's inaccurate. It's handed over to us in paper, on CDs, in boxes of binders. So the effect that has for our facilities management people, for our operations and maintenance, is that the maintenance is very much reactive. We're always fighting fires. So clearly, there's a lot of room for improvement in our industry. And what I'd like to share with you today is some of the steps that Alberta Infrastructure is taking to try to improve upon those issues that I just talked about. So for a little background, Alberta Infrastructure plans, designs, constructs, maintains, owns, and operates over 2,000 buildings in the province of Alberta. We are the largest owner-operator in the province. Our total asset portfolio is worth about $12 billion. So we are a fairly significant player in terms of facilities and infrastructure. some examples of what some of the projects that we're involved in. This is the latest, most recent Royal Alberta Museum that opened up in Edmonton just a few months ago. We're involved with remand centers. Many schools, dozens of schools are built every year under our watch. And this is the Calgary Cancer Center. This is a project that's currently being designed and built with PCL as the prime in Calgary, worth about $1.5 billion. So some pretty significant projects. Now, what does it take to construct and operate these buildings? Typically, we spend about 5% of our budget on planning. We would spend about 15% of the budget, and between 3 to 5 years, in the design and construction phase. But we would spend a whopping 80% of our total budget throughout the life cycle of a building on operations and maintenance. And this is really where we're placing our focus. We want to make sure that we can capitalize on any potential savings throughout the operations and maintenance phase of the life cycle of a project. So just to share with you a few numbers, I said before we have $12 billion in replaceable assets at Alberta Infrastructure. Currently, we have another $12 billion of ongoing capital projects. Our yearly maintenance costs total about $1 billion, and that's probably a very conservative estimate of what it takes to maintain and renew these buildings. So imagine for a second that we could save 5% on maintenance and renewals and operations. And this is a number that's thrown out in the BIM world quite often. And I think 5% is probably a very low estimate of what we could save. That translates to about $50 million a year in reduced operational costs. And this is a number that's it's a very significant number for a government operator like Alberta Infrastructure. And if we could achieve that target, it would be of great benefit to the Alberta taxpayer. So what are we doing to achieve that, or to try to achieve that? Well, we've learned through many projects over a number of years that silos are probably not the best way of running a project. Collaboration is important. Collaboration is key. Paper binders, operations and maintenance manuals, rolls of drawings, these are no longer an effective way of operating a facility. This is the way we envision our future to be with our facilities. We want our facilities managers to take full advantage of technology. And we need to move away from decisions based on intuition alone and gut feeling, and we need to move more into data-driven, analytical-based decision-making processes. So in order to achieve that, we have started a program of digital transformation with 3 pillars. One is building information modeling, BIM. The other very important piece, asset information management. We want to know more information about our assets. And the third pillar is collaboration. And these 3 pillars are based on a foundation of practical and detailed contractual requirements. We are an organization that is very contractual. We run on contracts. We operate on contracts. We will never get away from that. So we have to make sure that whatever we are requiring from our supply chain is very clearly articulated in our contracts. So in order to do this, we need to find out, how do we get there? What exactly do we need? What do we need to change? And in order to answer that question, we started with the end in mind. And the end in mind for us are our facilities management teams, our asset managers. Luckily, in the organization, we have dozens and dozens of very highly qualified facilities management personnel that have a deep knowledge of how buildings work. So what we did was we went to them, we asked them, well, what would improve your decision-making capability? What would make your job easier? And overwhelmingly, the answer is, or was, better information. So granular asset information. They want to know exactly, what kind of pump, when it was built, what the manufacturer, warranty information. They want this information digital. They're not interested in looking through paper binders anymore. And very importantly, accurate drawings, accurate models, of which is something that is quite rare, unfortunately, in our organization and a lot of owner organizations. So this is the way, and this isn't an image that was downloaded from Google. This is actually the operations and maintenance room of one of our hospitals, one of our most recent hospitals that was open, and this is the state of handover at the moment. That's very common in industry, and this is what we want to move away from. In order to achieve that, like I said before, contracts are key. So what we've done is we've reached out to our legal and procurement departments and started collaborating with them and started figuring out, well, what needs to change in our contracts? What needs, what kind of language do we need in there in order to make sure that we get better deliverables in our handovers? And quite honestly, it's our contractors, our consultants. It's not that they're not providing us with this information because they're mean people, because they don't want to. Our contracts right now, our specifications right now, don't require digital information. We don't have this language in our contract. So what we're getting is exactly what we are asking for, unfortunately. So this kind of language here is not the way around that problem, though. And this is language that I've seen very, very often in contracts. And this kind of language, like the contractor shall provide a BIM model, BIM to its fullest extent. If this is all that's in your contract, what you're going to get is probably information that's of no use to you. You're going to increase your costs as an owner, and it's really very counterproductive to anything that we're trying to achieve with regards to digital information and digital transformation. So this is not the way to achieve our vision. What we did instead was we decided to go the route of more detailed, more sophisticated requirements, and we call them the digital project delivery requirements. And you'll note that we didn't call them BIM. We didn't call them BIM requirements because what we've done encompasses a lot more than just a 3D model. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that we're trying to reach in our organization still equate 3D model and BIM. So we wanted to move away from that. What we realized was key was that our requirements needed to be practical. They needed to be achievable by most of our industry partners. We needed something that made sense to everybody. We have very varied project delivery methods. So most of our projects are done design, bid, build. We have some design, build, some construction management, and we wanted to make sure that whatever we came up with catered to all project delivery methods. Again, our focus is asset information. Our focus is handover, that 80%. So we wanted to make sure that for the hundreds, if not thousands of projects that we engage with on a yearly basis, that we received consistent information, structured information that was able to be imported into a maintenance management platform. For that, we chose the COBE standard. And we also realized that not all projects are suited to BIM. We have a lot of maintenance projects, pump replacements, boiler replacements, etc., where we probably wouldn't go asking for a full Revit model or full BIM requirements. And for those projects where BIM is seen as a benefit, we also wanted to make sure that we weren't being prescriptive with our requirements, that we gave our contractors, our consultants, as much flexibility as possible to do BIM the way that they're used to. So what we did, the first step that we went through before writing these requirements was that we got industry together in a room. So we got the Consulting Architects of Alberta, we got the Construction Association, the consulting engineers, Building Smart, IFMA, and various other players in what we called the Digital Project Delivery Industry Working Group. And we held a series of workshops, very long, sometimes painful workshops, where we would go through draft requirements and get everybody to offer their feedback and go through their feedback line by line, and make sure that we were all on the same page, that we were all aligned on what these requirements meant and that they were achievable to our industry partners. So I'm very happy to say that at the end of this sometimes painful process, we achieved consensus with all of these organizations, and they all came out in support of what we had delivered. So that was a very strong indicator that we were onto something. So on March 31st of this year, we officially released the Alberta Infrastructure Digital Project Delivery Requirements. They're all publicly available. Anybody can go onto this website and download them, read them, inspect them for themselves. And this is what we're using for all of our future capital projects in Alberta. So not to get into a lot of detail about these documents, but essentially they are grouped into asset information management requirements, BIM requirements, and then COBE. So what we require for our assets, the exact information that we require for our maintainable assets. And we've catered to design build and to design bid build projects because they each have their nuances. So right now we have 8 projects on the go at Alberta Infrastructure, and this is all since March 31st of this year, that are fully utilizing these requirements. So for example, the Calgary Cancer Centre, $1.5 billion hospital project. We have a couple of continuing care centres, government facilities like the Provincial Operations Centre, justice centres, and so on. And the list keeps growing and growing. These projects are full BIM projects, fully utilizing our requirements. Total project value currently, about $3 billion worth of projects using these requirements. Now, for these projects, they're run a little bit differently than our projects used to be. And by differently, I mean we're fully engaged on the BIM and asset information side of things. So what we do is we get together with our consultants, with our contractors. We develop the BIM and AIM execution plans collaboratively. We make sure that expectations are aligned, that everybody is on the same page with regards to what our requirements mean and how to achieve them. We hold regular meetings. At the start of the project, we get together with our consultants, with our contractors, sometimes twice a month. Later on, it'll probably be spaced out to monthly or bi-monthly, whatever the case may be. Depends on the project. But the point is that we are actively collaborating with our contractors to make sure that the BIM side of things is going according to plan. Very importantly, we bring facilities management into the picture from day one. And we get together with them, with the consultants, on a regular basis to make sure that we all understand what needs to be captured, what our maintainable assets are, and what the end game is for this project from a facilities management point of view. And I've got to say that we're very lucky at Alberta Infrastructure to have dedicated BIM staff. It's not a large team. We have 4 people actively employed doing BIM. And quite honestly, we wouldn't be able to have that same level of engagement that we have on our projects without these dedicated dedicated staff reviewing models, going to the meetings, collaborating with our consultants on execution plans, etc. So looking forward, this is something that we've achieved in a very short amount of time. Over the next year, 2 years, we're hoping to achieve a lot more. At number 1 on that list is really to have these digital project delivery requirements being used on every single project at Alberta Infrastructure. And by that, I mean, those small pump replacements, every maintenance, tenant improvement project. And we realize that, our requirements as they're written right now are probably not entirely suitable for these smaller projects. So what we have right now in review with our working group is a set of more streamlined standards requirements for use on these smaller projects. So we hope to release these new requirements probably February, March of 2019. Right now, we're in a bit of a transitional phase where, unfortunately, we are requesting the traditional paper deliverables plus the digital deliverables. Over the next 2 to 3 years, we hope to completely move away from the O&M binders, from the paper drawings, from any sort of paper deliverable into a full digital handover. We're also stepping it up with our UAV and laser scanning program. So last year we acquired our first laser scanner. This year we are probably going to be acquiring a UAV and a second laser scanner. And this is something that has been a complete success at Alberta Infrastructure. The laser scanner is being used on a daily basis, and our facilities managers, our project managers, our asset managers are seeing the value of this information on a daily basis. Right now, as I think I mentioned before, we do a lot of reactive maintenance, some preventative maintenance, and what we want to do ultimately with the data that we receive for these new facilities is get into the world of predictive maintenance, where we're using potentially artificial intelligence, smart buildings, to get some real value out of the data that we've worked so hard to collect. And another thing that we've done is that we've acquired licenses to a platform called EcoDomus, which is a BIM and facilities management integration platform that's cloud-based. And what that does is that ties our 3D model with our COBE data, with our asset information data that we're receiving, and makes all of the handover, the digital handover, available in one place, on a mobile phone, on a tablet, on a web browser. And we are piloting this with the Royal Alberta Museum right now, very excited that our facilities managers on that facility are going to be carrying around tablets using this platform to access all of their operations and maintenance data. We're also doing interprovincial collaboration. So the province of Saskatchewan has reached out to us. We've had several conversations with them. And I'm also very happy to say that Saskatchewan is also engaging in BIM. And they currently have our requirements being reviewed by their organizations, and it is very likely that Saskatchewan will be next in line to use Alberta Infrastructure's requirements on their projects. So it seems like it's been a straightforward journey. I mean, this has happened very quickly at Alberta Infrastructure. If 2 years ago, none of this existed. We didn't have a vision for BIM. So over the last 2 years, we've made some very significant progress. Unfortunately, while we've made some great strides, this is more what our path ahead, what our journey looks like over the next, I'd say, 3 to 5 years. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be legal challenges, procurement challenges. We have some very dated legacy IT systems that, it's going to be very difficult to bring those into the 21st century. Collaborative work practices, contracts, things like that. We are going to face some obstacles. There are going to be roadblocks on our journey. We've been very lucky thus far. Things have worked out rather well, but we are prepared for the eventual speed bump that we will face. So what I want to leave you with is this quote. And Alberta Infrastructure is not doing this because we think it's trendy, or we like buzzwords like BIM and AIM. We're doing it because we feel that it's our fiscal responsibility to do something like this. We owe it to Alberta taxpayers to try to manage, operate, design, construct our facilities more efficiently, more cost effectively. We see this digital transformation, digital project delivery, as being one avenue for trying to achieve that. And again, if we can reach that target of reducing our operational costs of $50 million, I mean, imagine what that would mean to the taxpayers of Alberta. So we need to embrace this change. We need to adapt. We're not the only players in town. Owners, contractors, trades, consultants, everybody is in this boat together. We all have to embrace this change. It's happening. It's permeating every other aspect of our lives. And it's time that it reached the construction industry. And we're hoping to move forward with a lot more innovation at Alberta Infrastructure, and hope that Manitoba can also achieve this. Thank you very much.